Stop. You haven't subscribed to the channel yet. Subscribe now. We have new stories every day. Now, let's go. Silas Caldwell adjusted his tie as he waited at Delacroix's, one of the finest regional restaurants in Belchester. The reservation had been made weeks in advance, an anxious attempt to save what remained of his marriage. At 38, he still kept the disciplined physique he developed in his military days. Dark hair neatly trimmed, posture impeccable. Some habits never died, even when everything else was crumbling around him. The maitre d' approached with a bottle of champagne. "Your usual, Mr. Caldwell." "Yes, thank you." Silas checked his watch again. Naomi was 15 minutes late, which wasn't unusual these days. He'd grown used to waiting for her in more ways than one. When she finally arrived, her entrance turned heads. Naomi Caldwell had that effect on people. Her caramel skin glowed under the soft lights, her curves accentuated by a tight red dress Silas didn't recognize. New, he thought. Another purchase she'd never mentioned. "Sorry I'm late," she said without meeting his gaze. No kiss, not even on the cheek. Just a practiced smile that never reached her eyes. "It's fine." Silas stood and pulled out her chair. "You look beautiful." Naomi settled into her seat with careful grace. "This place hasn't changed," she observed, her tone hinting at boredom rather than fondness. "It's where we had our first date," Silas said, trying to catch her eye. 10 years ago. Has it been that long?" Naomi took a sip of the champagne, her crimson nails tapping against the glass in a nervous, impatient rhythm. Silas studied her face. Once, he'd known every tiny expression she made. Now it felt like a stranger's face wearing his wife's features. "I thought tonight we could talk," he said softly. "Really talk?" Naomi's phone buzzed. She glanced down, a small smile forming before she tucked it away. "About what?" "About us. About what's happening to our marriage." "Nothing's happening to our marriage, Silas." Her voice was measured, careful. "We're just growing apart. It happens. It doesn't just happen, Naomi. People choose to grow apart." Naomi took another sip of champagne. "Maybe we should order first." The waiter arrived, saving her from further conversation. Silas ordered blackened fish, while Naomi chose crab cakes. As the waiter left, a heavy silence fell between them. "Remember when we used to talk for hours?" Silas asked quietly. "About everything and nothing." "We were younger then," Naomi replied. "We had less to worry about. And now? Now we have real lives. Real pressures." She shrugged. "It's not the same." "It could be," Silas insisted. "If we tried." Naomi's phone buzzed again. She didn't bother hiding her reaction this time. A genuine smile lit her face, the kind Silas hadn't seen directed at him in months. "Important?" he asked, failing to mask the edge in his voice. "Work," she lied. "You know how it is." Before Silas could respond, a commotion at the front of the restaurant drew their attention. A tall man in an expensive suit was arguing with the maitre d'. "I don't care about your reservation policy," the man said loudly. "I'm joining the Caldwells. Table for 3. Silas's spine stiffened. He recognized the voice before he saw the face. Dawson Kincaid, a real estate developer known for ruthless tactics and an even bigger ego. They'd crossed paths at various social events over the years, but had never been more than acquaintances. The maitre d' looked helplessly in Silas and Naomi's direction. Silas glanced at Naomi, expecting confusion or annoyance. Instead, he saw resignation in her eyes. Dawson strode toward their table, confidence radiating from every pore. "There you are," he said, as though they'd been expecting him. "Why didn't you invite me?" The restaurant fell silent, all eyes watching the scene. Silas waited for Naomi to say something, anything, to indicate shock or disbelief. Instead, she sighed and pulled out the empty chair beside her. "Silas," she said softly, "let's not make a scene." Those words made everything crystal clear. The late nights, new clothes, emotional distance, constant phone checking. A cold, numbing sensation spread through Silas's chest. He'd suspected, of course, even confronted Naomi once or twice, but she'd always denied it, always made him feel paranoid for asking. And here was the truth, sitting down at their anniversary dinner without so much as an apology. "You two know each other," Silas said. It wasn't a question. "Silas." Naomi started, her tone cautious. "Don't." He held up a hand. "Just don't." Dawson flagged down a waiter. "Scotch, neat," he ordered, then turned to Silas with a smirk. "Naomi didn't tell you I was joining." "Apparently not." Silas's voice was calm, military training under fire. "But by all means, make yourself at home." "Dawson," Naomi hissed, "I told you this wasn't a good idea." "Why not?" Dawson shrugged. "We're all adults here. I'm tired of being the secret, so it wasn't just a fling. It was an ongoing affair, serious enough that Dawson felt entitled to show up here of all places." Silas looked at his wife, the woman he built his life around. "How long?" Naomi glanced away, clearly uncomfortable. "Silas, we can talk about this later." "How long?" He repeated, each word ice. 6 months, Dawson answered for her, accepting his scotch. "Though we've known each other for years." 6 months. Half a year of betrayal, of looking Silas in the eye while sleeping with another man. Half a year of him trying to fix a marriage that Naomi had already discarded. Silas placed his napkin on the table and stood, his movements deliberate. "You two enjoy," he said, voice steady but deadly in its quiet menace. "Because I'm done with this marriage." "Silas, don't be dramatic," Naomi said, a hint of panic in her voice. He dropped $300 bills on the table. "That should cover dinner and a tip for the poor staff who had to witness this." Then he walked out, back rigid, face expressionless. Only when he reached his car did he allow his hands to shake, gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles whitened. He started the engine but didn't drive away immediately. Through the restaurant's window, he saw Naomi and Dawson talking, no one running after him, no apology offered. Something inside Silas Caldwell, something good and trusting, died in that moment, replaced by something colder and more calculating. The house was quiet when Silas returned. For 10 years, this classic home in the Riverbank quarter had been a haven. Now it felt like a museum of broken promises. He moved methodically, gathering clothes, toiletries, important papers, anything he'd need to leave for good. In the bedroom he'd once shared with Naomi, he paused at their wedding photo on the dresser. How happy they'd looked back then, certain of the future. What a joke. He placed the frame face down and continued packing. An hour later, the front door opened. Naomi's heels clicked on the hardwood, her purse rustling as she set it down. "Silas," she called. "Are you here?" He said nothing, just kept filling his suitcase. Naomi stepped into the bedroom, still wearing that red dress, looking more irritated than sorry. "So you're just going to leave? Just like that?" "Just like that," he answered, not looking up. "You can't just walk away. We need to talk about this like adults." "Like adults?" Silas lifted his gaze, cold. "Adults don't bring their lovers to anniversary dinners, Naomi. They don't humiliate their spouses in public." "That wasn't my idea," she muttered, crossing her arms. "Dawson can be impulsive. I wouldn't have planned it that way. But you didn't stop it either." Silas zipped his suitcase. "You didn't leave with me. You didn't tell them to go to hell. You pulled out a chair." "What was I supposed to do?" she argued. "Make a bigger scene." "You were supposed to respect our marriage," Silas said quietly. "But that ship sailed 6 months ago." Naomi sighed, her posture deflating. "I never meant for this to happen. Dawson and I. We just connected." "Connected," Silas echoed bitterly. "While you were married to me." "We weren't happy, Silas," she insisted, as if it were simple fact rather than a convenient defense. "We haven't been happy for a long time." "I was happy," he shot back. "Or at least I was trying to be. I was fighting for us, Naomi, while you were busy connecting with him. Dawson makes me happy, she countered with a flash of defiance. He understands me. Silas felt something snap at her lack of remorse. There would be no apology, no true acknowledgement of the pain she'd caused, only justifications. Then be happy with him, Silas replied, hefting his suitcase. My lawyer will contact you about the divorce. Divorce? Naomi's eyes went wide. Don't you think you're overreacting? We could try counseling. Counseling? Silas let out a hollow laugh. So you can lie to a therapist while still seeing Dawson? No thanks. He walked past her toward the door. Where are you going? She called, a hint of fear in her voice. Away from you, he said simply. I'll come back for the rest later. Silas, wait. But he was already outside, the cool night air a relief after the stifling house. He tossed his suitcase in the trunk and drove away without a backward glance. Only when he was blocks from home did he pull over, the reality crashing in. 10 years of life together, trust, love, destroyed in one night. His phone buzzed. A text from Naomi. We need to talk about this rationally. Come home. Home. The word felt hollow now. Silas turned off his phone and pulled back onto the road, knowing exactly where he needed to go. Celeste Caldwell's apartment was in a converted warehouse in the Pierpoint district, all exposed brick and industrial chic. Despite the late hour, she opened the door after a single knock. One look at Silas's face told her everything she needed to know. Well, Dan, she said, stepping aside to let him in. That bad? Silas entered wordlessly, dropping his suitcase. Celeste's place reflected her personality, organized, elegant, and intimidating. She was among the most feared attorneys in Lindenver, known for ruthless efficiency and an unflinching approach to the law. Drink? She asked, heading to her well-stocked bar. Whiskey, Silas replied, sinking onto her leather sofa. Neat. Celeste poured 2 glasses and handed him one. Talk. He took a long sip, then told her everything. She listened, eyes growing colder as he described Naomi's affair and Dawson's intrusion at Delacroix's. By the end, Celeste looked ready to tear someone apart. The nerve, she muttered. At your anniversary dinner, no less. It's over, Silas said flatly. The marriage, I mean. Obviously. Celeste sneered. What a waste of a decade. Silas drained his glass. I want a divorce. I should hope so. Her eyes narrowed, reading his tone. And I want them to suffer, he said, voice low. A slow smile curved Celeste's lips, the kind that made opposing counsel quake. Now you're talking. I'll need all the details, the weak spots, the skeletons in their closets. Everything. She's always relied on me, Silas said, his mind working rapidly. Financially, socially, emotionally. I shielded her from consequences. As for Dawson, he's arrogant and obsessed with his image. Celeste nodded. Both weaknesses. Perfect. I want to be methodical, Silas continued. No blind rage or impulsive moves. They took everything from me. I want to return the favor, piece by piece. The prenup is ironclad, Celeste reminded him. She gets nothing if there's proof of infidelity. We just need evidence. I'll get it, Silas promised. Last night was a pretty public display already. That's hearsay. We need more. Texts, emails, hotel receipts. She tapped her nails thoughtfully. Still, a professional investigator would be best, an objective witness if needed. Silas nodded. All right, but I'm doing my own digging too. Understood. Celeste clinked her glass against his. To justice. Revenge, Silas corrected, grim satisfaction in his eyes. Celeste smirked, taking the sip. I'll file the divorce papers first thing. Naomi will be served at work, for maximum effect. Then we go after Dawson. Silas leaned back, letting his sister's unwavering support steady him. In a world turned upside down, Celeste was the one person who always had his back. Later, lying in darkness in Celeste's guest room, Silas stared at the ceiling, sleep elusive. His phone remained off, sparing him Naomi's excuses. In the military, Silas had learned that when ambushed, you never panicked. You assessed, identified threats, and neutralized them. Tonight had been a personal ambush, but he'd survive and fight back. With that resolve, he finally drifted into a dreamless sleep. Morning light filtered through the blinds as Silas woke. For a disorienting moment, he forgot where he was, then remembered the events of the previous night. Betrayal, anger, determination. He checked his phone. 17 missed calls, 12 texts from Naomi. He deleted them all without reading. In the kitchen, Celeste was already up, dressed in a sharp charcoal suit, hair in a severe bun. She pushed a cup of coffee toward him. "You look like hell." "I feel like it," he admitted, sipping gratefully. "I've cleared my lunch schedule," she said, checking her watch. "Meet me in my office at noon. We'll plan our strategy." Silas nodded. "I appreciate it." "Don't thank me yet," she replied with a grim smile. "This is going to get uglier before it gets better." After she left, Silas showered and dressed, then sat at her dining table with a legal pad. He called his bank to transfer half of the joint account into his personal one. Next, he began severing ties that bound him financially to Naomi, canceling appointments, switching accounts, anything to create distance. By noon, he arrived at Celeste's firm in a gleaming high-rise overlooking the Greenbank River. Her corner office radiated authority. Polished desk, walls of legal tomes and awards. "Sit," she said, gesturing to a chair. "Let's talk strategy." He settled in, feeling more like a client than her brother. "Where do we start?" "With what we know." Celeste opened her notebook. "Naomi's affair with Dawson Kincaid has been going on for at least 6 months. Our prenup states if either party cheats, they forfeit all financial claims. We need indisputable proof." Silas frowned. "We already have a restaurant full of witnesses." "That's not solid enough," Celeste said. "We need corroborating evidence, texts, photos, or a professional account. I'll hire a private investigator to gather it." "Fine," Silas agreed. "But I'm going to do my own research on Dawson. He's been divorced twice. Both times, he skated by unscathed. He's got money, connections, and a massive ego. So his public image is crucial to him," Celeste surmised. "Perfect. I still don't get why Naomi risked everything for him." "Affairs aren't rational," Celeste replied. She was chasing excitement. "Men like Dawson make a lot of promises." Silas's jaw tightened. "She's always been reckless, counting on me to shield her from fallout. And Dawson thinks he's untouchable." Celeste's eyes gleamed. "We'll use that arrogance to push them both off the cliff." She outlined a threefold plan: legal, financial, social. Legally, they'd enforce the prenup. Financially, Silas would secure assets, cutting Naomi's access. Socially, they'd undermine both Naomi and Dawson's reputations. The goal was not just to win the divorce, but to make them both deeply regret ever crossing Silas Caldwell. Over lunch from a nearby deli, they fleshed out each step. Silas would alert his boss about the divorce, ensuring Naomi couldn't undermine his standing at the engineering firm. By the end of lunch, Silas felt a renewed sense of purpose. He wasn't helpless. He wasn't just a victim. He was fighting back. "Remember," Celeste said as they finished, "this isn't just about the divorce. It's about ensuring they pay for what they did." Silas's voice was firm. "They won't forget this lesson." That afternoon, accompanied by Celeste's assistant Jacob, Silas returned to the home he'd shared with Naomi. He used his key, half expecting new locks, but everything opened smoothly. He moved quickly through the rooms, collecting his personal items. He left behind every gift Naomi had ever given him. He wanted nothing that reminded him of her. In the study, he paused at the filing cabinet, pulling out tax returns, statements, insurance policies. Jacob carried boxes outside to the car. Silas spotted a framed photo of him and Naomi at a charity gala, both beaming. Had she already been thinking about Dawson back then? He set the photo face down and turned to go. Just as they finished loading, a car pulled up. Naomi climbed out, her face stormy, as she saw Silas and Jacob with boxes. "What are you doing?" she demanded, marching toward them. "Getting my things," Silas said calmly. She glared at Jacob. "And who is this?" Jacob gave a courteous nod. "Jacob Reed, Miss Caldwell. I work for Celeste Caldwell." Naomi's eyes flashed. "You brought a witness. You think I'll attack you or something?" "I think you'll do whatever serves your interests," Silas countered. "I'm protecting mine." Naomi's expression hardened. "So this is how it's going to be. Lawyers, witnesses, protocols. You're really going through with it. You set the terms the night you brought Dawson to our table." Silas's voice was devoid of emotion. "I'm just following your lead. That was not my idea." Naomi insisted, voice cracking. "Dawson showed up on his own." "But you didn't leave with me," Silas reminded her. "You didn't act surprised or outraged. You pulled out a chair." Her posture grew tense. "Fine. You want to do this the hard way. I'll fight back. I have rights, Silas." "So did I," he said softly. "The right to a faithful wife, for one." He slammed the trunk shut, finalizing the conversation. "I'll be in touch through Celeste. Direct any communication to her office." "Celeste?" Naomi looked pale. "You're using your sister against me." "Not against you," Silas corrected. "For me. There's a difference." Without waiting for an answer, he climbed into the car. In the rearview mirror, he saw Naomi standing in the driveway, alone, fury and disbelief warring on her face. Good. Let her wonder what came next, because Silas Caldwell was just getting started. 3 days later, Naomi Caldwell sat in her office at Beaumont and Fields Law, reviewing documents for a high-profile case. As a senior paralegal, she was used to tight deadlines, but her mind kept drifting to Silas and that awful scene at Delacroix. She tried calling and texting. He hadn't responded. The house felt empty, a daily reminder that he was gone. Even Dawson's attention wasn't enough to ease the ache. It brought new pressures instead, expectations she wasn't sure she wanted. A knock on her door tore her from her thoughts. The receptionist appeared with a courier. "Delivery for Naomi Caldwell," the courier said. "Signature required." Naomi signed for the thick envelope. The return address made her stomach drop. Caldwell and Associates, attorneys at law. Celeste's firm. She shut the door and stared at the envelope, dread coiling inside her. With trembling hands, she tore it open. Divorce papers spilled out, referencing irreconcilable differences and breach of the marital contract through infidelity. Attached was the prenup, highlighting the clause. If either spouse was unfaithful, that spouse would walk away with nothing. She felt a surge of panic. She'd signed that document 10 years ago, never dreaming it would be her undoing. A small note, clipped to the top, bore Celeste's cool handwriting. "Consider yourself served. I suggest finding representation immediately." Naomi picked up her phone and dialed Silas's number. It went straight to voicemail. Again. Her next call was to Dawson, who answered on the second ring. "Hey, gorgeous," he said smugly. "Missing me already?" Silas filed for divorce, Naomi blurted. "He's enforcing the prenup. I could lose everything. My share of the house, our savings, our investments." A pause. "Take it easy." "What prenup?" She explained through gritted teeth. "It says if one of us cheats, that person forfeits all rights to marital assets." "He's got me cornered." "He can't do that," Dawson insisted. "He can, and he is." Naomi snapped. "Celeste is behind it. The entire office saw me served." Another pause. Dawson's tone turned dismissive. "Then hire a lawyer. Prenups get overturned all the time. Not one Celeste Caldwell draws up," Naomi muttered bitterly. "And after your little stunt, we have a restaurant full of witnesses." "My stunt," Dawson said angrily. "You didn't mind at the time." "That's because I was blindsided," Naomi hissed, aware of the thin walls. You embarrassed both of us, just like Silas. I'm tired of being a secret, Naomi. Dawson's arrogance leaked back into his voice. Anyway, come over tonight. We'll talk. She began, but he hung up. She stared at her phone in disbelief, then stuffed the papers back into the envelope just as her boss knocked. Martin Beaumont, kind-faced, stepped in. Everything okay? Our receptionist said you seemed upset. Naomi hid the papers. It's personal. I'll handle it. Martin studied her with concern. My door's open if you need it. After he left, Naomi sank into her chair, the weight of her situation crashing down. She'd thought Silas would never go through with this, that he wouldn't leave her with nothing. But he had, fueled by Celeste's relentless skill. Naomi felt the first real panic of her life. She was in serious trouble. Across town, Silas was temporarily set up in an empty office at Celeste's firm, on leave from his engineering job. A text from Celeste confirmed Naomi had been served and had reacted with what appeared to be full-blown panic. Good, he replied. Keep me posted. He was in the midst of reorganizing his finances when his phone rang. Celeste's private investigator. Mr. Caldwell, the investigator said, I've got preliminary info. Your wife and Dawson have been seeing each other 3 times a week for at least 4 months, always at his Central District apartment. No public restaurants or hotels. It's deliberate. Silas frowned, minimizing a paper trail. Yes. Also, I looked into Dawson's past. Both ex-wives were married to other men when he pursued them. Silas tensed. He's done this before. At least twice, confirmed the investigator. I'll keep digging. After hanging up, Silas leaned back, processing. So Dawson was a serial homewrecker. Naomi hadn't just been unfaithful. She'd fallen victim to a predator known for this pattern. Almost enough to make him pity her. Almost. He texted Celeste. Need to talk about Dawson's history. Let's meet. Her response was immediate. Dinner, 8 p.m. I'll bring takeout. The rest of the day flew by as Silas juggled tasks, transferring assets, and making sure Naomi couldn't seize more than she was legally entitled to. That evening, Celeste arrived with Thai food and a bottle of wine. They spread out the containers in her office and ate by the city lights. Naomi called me, Celeste announced between bites. Threatened, begged, cajoled. She wants me to back off. Promised a quick divorce if you split assets 50-50. Silas snorted. Generous of her. When that didn't work, she tried emotional appeals, claiming I'm turning you against her. Silas shook his head. She turned me against her. What did you say? To get a lawyer and talk to me through the proper channels. Celeste rolled her eyes. She's frightened, Silas, and she should be. He nodded. The investigator found out Dawson has a pattern. He's done this before, targeting married women, wrecking marriages, then moving on. Celeste's eyebrow rose. Very useful. We can spin it as premeditated once we have solid proof. Legally, it won't change the prenup, Silas noted. But socially, Celeste raised her glass in a toast. Socially, it's dynamite. They refined their plan, discussing how to undermine Dawson's carefully curated image. By the time they finished, Silas felt calmer, a blueprint for revenge fully drawn. Over the next week, Silas quietly spread rumors among mutual acquaintances, how Dawson always chased married women, how Naomi was just his latest fling, how they'd both humiliated Silas. The whispers took on a life of their own. Meanwhile, Celeste ramped up legal action, filing motions that forced Naomi and Dawson to reveal their finances and communications. 2 weeks after serving Naomi, Silas received a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. DK, Dawson Kincaid. He replied, nothing to discuss. Dawson, meet me at the Oakmont Lounge at the Whitmore in 30 minutes, or I'll come find you at Celeste's. Silas considered ignoring it, but curiosity won. Fine, he typed. The Oakmont Lounge was busy for a weekday afternoon. Silas spotted Dawson at a corner table, a glass of whiskey in front of him. Silas ordered club soda at the bar, then approached. Kincaid greeted him with a tense nod. Caldwell. Kincaid. Silas sat, posture deliberately relaxed. What's urgent? Dawson leaned forward. I want you to stop. Stop what, exactly? The rumors, the legal harassment, everything. Dawson's voice was low but fierce. You've made your point. Have I? Silas asked calmly. And what point would that be? That you're angry, you want revenge. Fine. But this is out of hand. Silas studied Dawson's face. Handsome, wealthy, accustomed to winning. Let me be clear. I haven't begun to make my point. What you see is just the start. Dawson's expression darkened. Look, your pride is hurt. I get it. But Naomi and I. Don't pretend it's some grand romance. Silas waved a dismissive hand. I know your pattern. You find married women, seduce them, destroy their marriages, then move on. Ring a bell. Dawson's jaw tightened. You've been busy. Knowledge is power, Silas said. Naomi's learning that too. She started asking questions about your past, your other conquests, those roses you got at your house last week. A flicker of alarm crossed Dawson's eyes. That was a mistake. Wrong address. Is that what you told her? Interesting. Dawson gulped his whiskey. What do you want, Caldwell? Money. Name your price to end this vendetta. You can't buy me off, Silas replied, almost laughing. This isn't about money. It's about consequences. So it is revenge, Dawson murmured. Call it what you like, Silas said with a shrug. The result will be the same. Dawson exhaled. Naomi's suffering, you know, losing everything, socially isolated. Do you really want to hurt her that badly? She made her bed, Silas said icily. Don't pretend you care. You ambushed her at our anniversary dinner, humiliating her as much as me. That's not love, Dawson. That's ego. Dawson's face flickered with guilt. That was a mistake, he conceded. I just didn't want to hide anymore. Well, congratulations, Silas snapped, standing. You're in the spotlight now. This isn't over, Dawson hissed. Silas glanced over his shoulder. No, it's just beginning. The following week, Silas and Celeste attended the Kavanaugh Foundation Gala at the Brighton Court Hotel. Everyone in Bellachester's elite circles would be there, including Dawson, who was on the board. Naomi might attend too. Perfect. Celeste had insisted Silas come as her +1, to show society he was thriving, not licking his wounds. Silas, in a crisp tux, cut a confident figure beside his sister in an elegant black gown. When they arrived, Silas immediately noticed Dawson at the bar, scanning the room. Naomi was nowhere in sight. Celeste leaned in and whispered, "She's not here." That's telling, isn't it? They circulated, greeting acquaintances. People whispered about Silas's calm, poised demeanor, and Naomi's conspicuous absence. Halfway through the evening, Dawson approached Silas in the midst of a conversation with the Dean of Engineering from Parkland University, Caldwell. Dawson nodded stiffly. Didn't expect to see you here. Mum. My sister is a longtime supporter, Silas replied nonchalantly. And you? Board obligations, Dawson said, forcing a smile. Where's your wife? He added, almost taunting. Celeste reappeared, saving Silas from responding. There you are, she said brightly, taking his arm. The chairman wants to discuss the scholarship fund donation. It was a well-crafted lie designed to emphasize Silas's philanthropy. Of course, Silas agreed, leaving Dawson behind. The rest of the gala went smoothly. Silas played the role of dignified ex-husband, not a bitter victim. By the end of the night, people were buzzing about Dawson's tension and Naomi's absence rather than Silas's heartbreak. A triumph. 3 weeks later, the new Bellachester Business Association held its annual awards at the Fairmount Royal. Dawson was set to receive Urban Renewal Project of the Year. Silas planned to make sure Dawson's big night ended in disaster. He'd arranged to attend with colleagues from his engineering firm. Naomi would never expect him there. Meanwhile, the investigator and Celeste had orchestrated a carefully timed spectacle. Silas arrived and took a seat at a distant table. Sure enough, Dawson was front and center near the stage, Naomi on his arm. She looked lovely but tense in a silver gown. Even from across the ballroom, Silas sensed strain between them. Dinner gave way to the award ceremony. Dawson accepted his trophy to polite applause and launched into a polished speech about community and vision. Midway through, a young woman entered from a side door. She was flashy, wearing a dress a bit too tight for a formal event. She scanned the crowd, eyes locking on Dawson. She made a beeline for the stage. Silas watched, heart pounding. Naomi noticed her first, straightening in alarm. The woman reached the front just as Dawson finished his speech. "Dawson," she called loudly. "I thought I'd surprise you." The crowd murmured. Dawson blinked in confusion, microphone in hand. "Do I know you?" he asked, forcing a polite tone. The woman's face contorted with theatrical hurt. "Wow. 3 weeks of stolen nights, and now you pretend I'm nobody." Gasps rippled through the room. Naomi stood, eyes flashing with rage and humiliation. Dawson tried to salvage the moment. "Let's discuss this privately," he said, stepping down from the stage. She backed away. "I don't think so. I'm done being your secret, Dawson. Scheduling everything around your windows of opportunity was fun. Until now." The echo of Dawson's own lines about being a secret lover at Silas's anniversary dinner was obvious to everyone. Naomi moved swiftly, her voice trembling with fury. "Is this true? Have you been cheating on me?" "Naomi, please," Dawson stammered, glancing frantically around the silent ballroom. "Cheating," the woman said with a bitter laugh. "That's rich coming from you. You were married when he started chasing you. At least he only had you to worry about when he found me." Naomi's control snapped. She slapped Dawson across the face, a crack that echoed. "You liar. You complete and utter liar." Phones flashed as people recorded. Dawson froze, hand to his reddening cheek. Naomi glared at him, tears streaking her makeup. "Don't you ever touch me again," she screamed, then spun on her heels and fled. Dawson stood there, humiliated and bewildered. He turned on the woman. "Who are you? Who put you up to this?" She just smiled. "Ask yourself who you've wronged. That list is too long to guess." Then she left the way she came, leaving Dawson to face a crowd now buzzing with scandal. From his seat, Silas watched, cold satisfaction flooding his chest. The scene had unfolded perfectly. Naomi's meltdown, Dawson's humiliation. It was everything Silas had hoped for, and more. He slipped out during the chaos, meeting the hired actress near the lobby. He paid her the final installment. "Well done," he said, keeping his voice low. "Was any of it true?" she asked, curious. "The cheating. Does it matter?" Silas replied. "The damage is done." Within minutes, videos of Naomi's slap would be flying around social media, sealing Dawson's fate as a two-timing scoundrel, and Naomi's as a spurned partner. Silas felt a calm sense of closure. They humiliated him in public. Now they knew how it felt. 3 days later, rain lashed Belchester, turning the streets into rivers. Silas stared out the floor-to-ceiling windows of Celeste's apartment, a book on his lap. The fallout had been severe for Dawson and Naomi. Videos of the confrontation at the Fairmount Royal had circulated everywhere. Their reputations lay in tatters. Neither showed face around town anymore. Yet Silas felt a strange hollowness. The drive for revenge had sustained him. Now what? His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I'm outside your sister's building. Need to talk. Please." It had to be Naomi. Silas peered down and spotted her on the sidewalk, umbrella battered by the wind and rain. He thought of ignoring her, letting her stand there until she gave up. But curiosity won again. Not coming down. Say what you have to say in a text, he replied. Her answer came fast. Please, Silas. 5 minutes. I'm soaked. He hesitated, then relented. 5 minutes. That's all. He rode the elevator to the lobby. Outside, Naomi stood just beyond the doors, umbrella doing little good against the torrent. You could have waited in your car, Silas said, keeping his own sturdy umbrella up. I took a cab, she admitted. Driver left. 5 minutes, he reminded her. Go. Naomi brushed wet hair from her face. Despite her expensive coat, she was drenched, makeup running. I made a mistake, she said. A huge one. Silas gave a bitter laugh. A mistake. That's what you call 6 months of lies, and that scene at Delacroix's. I never should have let things go so far with Dawson, Naomi said, voice trembling. I never should have hurt you like that. But I did. And I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. She swallowed, tears mixing with the rain on her cheeks. I got caught up in something exciting, different. I convinced myself we were done anyway, that I deserved happiness. At my expense, Silas finished. Her gaze dropped. At your expense. They stood there a moment, rain pounding, isolating them from the rest of the world. Was it worth it? Silas finally asked, throwing away a decade for Dawson. Her eyes were full of tears. No, he wasn't worth it. And now it's over. After that awards dinner fiasco, I can't be with him. Whether he actually cheated or not, he humiliated me. Like you humiliated me, Silas pointed out. Naomi's voice broke. I deserve that. But Silas, you're being cruel. This vindictive campaign. You haven't seen cruel, he said flatly. She flinched, umbrella sagging under the downpour. I want to fix this, she cried, reaching out. Silas stepped back. Fix what? Our marriage. It's beyond repair. Can we at least stop hurting each other? She looked desperate. Please, call off the legal pressure and social warfare. Let's just divorce like civilized people and move on. You mean give you half our assets, ignoring the prenup you violated? Silas asked. Let you play the victim. It's over with Dawson, she insisted. He's gone. Until the next exciting man appears, Silas said coolly. Naomi's expression cracked. That's not fair. None of this is fair, he retorted. You made your choices, Naomi. Now you face consequences. She raised her chin, tears sliding down. So this is who you are now. Someone who takes everything from me. You took everything from me first, Silas said softly. I'm just leveling the score. Naomi stared at him, voice trembling. I never meant to destroy us, Silas. But you did. She looked utterly defeated, hair plastered to her face. You don't have to be so cruel, she whispered again, her voice cracking. He studied her for a long moment. The woman he'd loved now a stranger, soaked and pleading on the sidewalk. A flicker of pity stirred but was instantly snuffed by memories of her betrayal. No, he said, turning away. I don't have to be. But you gave me no choice. With that, he walked back inside, leaving her out in the rain. Through the lobby's glass, he watched her stand there, shoulders drooping, before she finally turned and vanished into the storm. Upstairs, Celeste eyed him with concern. That was Naomi. Silas nodded, setting down his umbrella. She wants to fix things and end our war. Are you sure you still want to keep pushing? Celeste asked gently. We've proven our point. Silas shrugged. It's not about hurting her anymore. It's about justice. Actions have consequences. Celeste squeezed his shoulder. Make sure you don't lose yourself in the process. Sometimes letting go is healthier. But Silas felt no urge to forgive. The wound was still raw, and some things couldn't be repaired. Some bridges, once burned, stayed ashes forever. 2 months passed. Silas stood in his new Pierpoint district apartment, unpacking the last boxes of books. Smaller than the old house, but it was a clean slate. He'd finalized the divorce last week, The prenup stood, and Naomi left with only her personal effects, plus a small settlement he granted for expediency. Their old home was sold, the proceeds mostly his. Friends and acquaintances had largely sided with Silas, while Naomi's once glittering social life dissolved. Dawson had retreated from public view, focusing on saving his business from PR fallout. The revenge plan had succeeded beyond expectation. Naomi and Dawson were humiliated, separated, their public images shattered. Yet Silas now felt a strange emptiness, as though the victory left a void where anger used to be. His phone buzzed. It was Celeste. "It's done. Papers went through this morning. You're free." He set down a book. "Free," he murmured. "Come celebrate," Celeste texted. "Drinks on Preston Street with colleagues." He was tempted to decline but realized that retreating into solitude was exactly what Naomi or Dawson might expect from him. The wounded ex-husband, still moping. No, he wouldn't let them define him. "Sure. Text me the address," he replied. "See you in an hour." He showered, put on a sharp suit, and headed out into the balmy Belchester evening. The bar on Preston Street was upscale, but comfortable, filled with warm light. Celeste waved him over to a corner table where she sat with 3 colleagues. "The man of the hour," she cheered, raising her glass. "Officially divorced, and richer." They laughed and toasted. Silas settled in, sipping whiskey, listening to the friendly chatter. After a while, he excused himself to use the restroom. On the way back, a familiar voice spoke his name. "Silas," it said. Dawson Kincaid stood nearby, a drink in hand, looking subdued. "Kincaid," Silas acknowledged. "Didn't expect to see you here." "Meeting a client," Dawson replied, gesturing at a table. "Heard your divorce was finalized." "Congratulations." "Thank you." Silas regarded him, noticing the tension in Dawson's posture. Dawson let out a slow breath. "I didn't think it would end like this, so public. That wasn't my plan." "Plans often go awry," Silas said, "especially when they're built on another person's pain." Dawson's gaze slid away. "I guess I deserved that. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Really, I never intended to blindside me. To make Naomi choose at our anniversary dinner." Silas's voice was razor sharp. "Sure you did." Dawson's shoulders sagged. "Maybe so, but I didn't expect it to become such a spectacle." "Neither did I," Silas said pointedly. "Yet here we are." Dawson paused, swirling his drink. "Have you seen Naomi? Talk to her." Silas shook his head. "Not since she stood in the rain, asking me to end all this." "You?" "She's leaving Belchester, moving to Atlanta for a fresh start." That news surprised Silas. Naomi loved this city. For her to leave meant the damage to her social standing was even worse than he'd realized. "Good for her," he said quietly. "Fresh starts help." Dawson studied him. "You really don't care." Silas shrugged. "I cared once, which is why it all ended so badly." Dawson nodded. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry, not just for the meltdown but for the way it began. Crashing your anniversary was cruel." "Yes, it was," Silas agreed, making no move to forgive. Finally, Dawson sighed. "I should go. Good luck, Caldwell." "And to you," Silas replied, watching the man walk away, shoulders tense in his expensive suit. Even his swagger was gone. Silas felt a sense of completion. Dawson, once so arrogant, was now a man diminished. Returning to Celeste's table, Silas sat down with a small smile. One of her colleagues asked, wide-eyed, "Was that Dawson Kincaid?" "It was," Silas confirmed. "And?" Celeste prompted. He shrugged. "Just 2 professionals who happen to know each other." She arched an eyebrow. "Really? How do you feel?" He considered. "Oddly satisfied. Like finishing a difficult project." Celeste smiled, raising her glass. "To finished projects and new beginnings." They all toasted. Later, as they prepared to leave, Celeste pulled her brother aside. "You sure you're okay?" she asked gently. With everything we did, revenge can eat you alive. Silas looked at her, the one person who'd stood by him, who'd fought for him. I won't let it define me. The chapter is closed, but I'll never forget what they did. Celeste nodded. A long memory is in our blood. Some call it integrity. Silas countered softly. Standing by your principles, even when letting go is easier. She laughed. Some call it stubbornness. But I'm proud of you. You didn't break. You didn't become a monster in the process. Walking home, Silas felt a peaceful resolve. The vengeance he'd pursued had been served. He'd refused to let Naomi and Dawson reduce him to a broken shell. He'd prevailed, and without losing himself. Yes, it hurt. Yes, the scars would remain. But the war was over, and he was free. In his new apartment, Silas poured a last glass of whiskey and gazed at the city lights outside. Life would go on. He'd build something new from the rubble. He'd never let anyone betray him so easily again. Some wounds never fully heal, but they teach lessons you carry forever. He raised his glass in silent toast to the night, to the future, to himself. Victory wasn't always pretty, but it was his. And that was enough.